what's up, everybody? Welcome in. It's Memorial Day. Esports Weekly, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us. We got a lot to go over so far today and not a lot of time. We've got to get to that SCL at 11 a.m., so we're going to be going quickly through it. And we'll start with the SCL. The LAN just happened this last weekend, and we got to go over it, guys. Europe finally won a LAN. It finally happened.
Yeah, Europe managed to do it overall. Rival had a very good time of things. They didn't do the greatest in the world, but at the same time, they came back later on with the tournament to see how well they could do against teams they lost to previously.
And of course, you can always anticipate that a lot of the European teams have really been striving to try and improve over time, although the competition being so limited, or at least that's what it seemed like, because with the increase of Rival, I think that we can see something kind of similar to what we saw from the PC side of things, in that I think that the European region kind of tended to suffer for a while from not being able to compete against a lot of the North American teams, and then they started gaining some of that international experience. Then the whole surgence of Rival, or excuse me, not Rival, but of Energy going on.
Right.
And then we had to kind of see the rest of Europe sort of form up and get better over time in order for the other European teams to catch up pretty much. And I think we can see something similar happening here with this Rival team.
Well, it was an impressive run for Rival at LAN. I mean, Elevate National Authority, two very strong North American teams, and both looked pretty good, but AA really had a resurgence. Picking up Inbound seemed to really make a big difference for them.
Yeah, Inbound seemed to work out very well for them on that roster. The whole team of Astral looked like they were getting places, and they will get there stronger as time goes on. I believe there may be even roster changes this split for them as well. We're looking at changing things as well.
Like I said, I think that some of the roster changes are just going to be a natural occurrence as well, especially after NA just lost. This is kind of a motivational period for them, though, I think, in that NA teams, I mean, for the longest time, they had full control over Europe, or so it seemed, and now that it's not going to be as easily as they thought it would be in the past, they have a very strong chance now, I think, to try and really reform and kind of just revamp the way that they're choosing to approach things.
Yeah, I mean, Astral Authority already making a change right after the LAN. They drop Kobe, pick up Transonic, so there's going to be a veteran ADC there in that role. I think this is going to make AA a lot better because Kobe did struggle this LAN.
It's a big roster change too, and you saw the way Astral were talking about the team as a whole, and they were looking to make improvements. Transonic's coming on. That's not a bad name to have pick up, you know, as one of the teams that are vying for first place this year.
I will say, though, that last Worlds performance that we saw from Transonics was probably going to be the real question mark for me now as he's approaching this new Season 5 stuff, because he didn't seem as though he was as motivated during that Worlds time period. I think even in talking to the Astral Authority guys after their loss, they all admitted, yeah, Trans wasn't really showing up to scrims, Trans was having some issues, and so I'm hoping that he chooses to adjust those for this next upcoming split.
Well, now they've got to try and get good enough to beat Rival potentially in the summer, because Rival is the team to beat now. First time we've been able to say that about a European console team ever so far. But this is well-deserved, Hindu. I mean, this team plays so well together. Their individual talent level is there, but the teamwork also stood out to me.
It definitely feels like Europe found their stride this split, where they stopped arguing amongst themselves and actually put together a squad that has the same mentality of wanting to win, wanting to prove that Europe aren't just a whipping boy. That's all it felt like to me.
And I think that Europe really made a statement here at this LAN, in that it wasn't exactly the easiest pathing journey in order to get to that finals bracket. Rival really had to go against some pretty formidable opponents, and the fact that they were in control, and it felt as though even in the games that they did have some back and forth action going on, they still felt like a team that had a very strong chance in terms of just being able to topple one of the NA powerhouses, and that's exactly what we saw.
I will say as well, though, the one thing I'm a little bit worried about is complacency from Rival now. Because they did win something, please don't have us go down this route of like, oh, we're the best in the world now because we beat everybody, and then go back to doing nothing again.
Right.
They need to keep the grind going. It's very important.
That's how you end up winning a world championship. Got to be able to keep it going the entire year. Well, that was the console LAN. Congratulations to Team Rival there, and got to say congratulations to Team Rival, because they won the PC Master LAN as well. Masters happened a couple weeks ago. Haven't gotten a chance to talk about it yet. And man, what an incredible bracket that was. I mean, the double elimination, I wasn't completely sold on it right away, but how could I argue with it after that? I mean, that was so fun to watch Rival make that losers run.
We got the best of both worlds in both the console and the PC side, where Rival did the unthinkable. They go to the loser bracket and then they grind back up to win it. So it happened for Rival squads on both sections, but the PC side specific, very interesting to see how that went down. Losing 3-0 to Dig in the earlier bracket and then to come back and beat them. I mean, to be fair, Dig through it. I'm never going to deny that. Dig through the finals, that game where they went for the dropship and didn't work out. That came back to haunt them.
It really did.
I will say, though, Hindu, that was a 10 out of 10 script right for the spring.
Yeah, well done.
I do
well
appreciate
done. Yeah.
that one.
Thank you.
It was well done, man. That was so much fun, and congratulations there to Team Rival, of course. Excited to see what that's going to bring for Team Dignitas, how they're going to be able to adjust in future lands. You know, and this is 2 lands in a row where they've had rough performances. You got to wonder if that's going to start to mess with them a little bit.
And speaking a little bit about that, obviously the opening game today of the Pro League is going to be Dig versus Rival.
That's right.
So we get a rematch of the finals in Europe later on today, but obviously console first.
Yeah, console first. Got to get into that. And speaking of console, got to mention PS4 League is coming. Yeah, if you've been playing on the PlayStation 4, want to get into the competitive scene, now is your opportunity. You can go to SMITE Pro's Twitter. There's more information there. But starting in the summer split, we're going to start to get that PlayStation crew involved. We imagine that that's going to be your time to shine. Yeah,
I'm going for PS4.
Get your DualShocks out of here. Look, PlayStation, I think that there's been a lot of talk about it. I am excited to see these players get a chance to play in the competitive scene. Are there going to be growing pains at first? Of course. You think of the beginning of the SPL. We saw some questionable plays. Beginning of the SCL, questionable plays. I think we'll see it in the PlayStation 4 League, but I'm excited to see where it can grow too, because now you watch the console LAN, you missed out if you didn't watch that LAN. These guys are really solid players now.
If anything, with PlayStation specifically and their console league now coming through, they've had a lot of time of growing overall in terms of their scene. It's not like it was thrown on them on day one of it being released. It was like grown as time has continued. So there should be players that are established on there already. So when it comes to the Pro League, I think it'll be a little bit better than what we've seen out of other leagues previously. Still going to be at the bottom end, but it's still going to, I feel it's going to be stronger.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, they've had more time to kind of work together and play overall before getting their Pro League opportunity. So excited to see there. Again, if you want to get involved, go to SMITE Pro's Twitter. There's more information there. Let's move it back to the Masters LAN real quick, though. Didn't get a chance to go too in-depth there. Rival take the victory, but the story for me coming out of there is that, number one, Rival is really, really damn good. Number two, are there question marks about North America against Europe? Because NA struggled a little bit.
I think that was just North America trying to make the double hunter work in a situation where I just don't think that was possible, because Europe had the double hunter figured out. They had to deal with Cherio in the gang for so long that if anybody's going to know how to expertly handle double hunter, it's probably going to be some of those European teams. And I think that's exactly what we got out of Rival, out of Dignitas. If you talk to the guys, I mean, we all got a chance to talk to them and ask them, hey, how do you guys feel about having the hunters in the mid lane? They're like, that sucks every single time.
They're like, give us the late game mages. We're not worried about it.
It's funny because at the start of the year, it's just Europe kicked things off earlier. They found the meta that worked better overall at the start of the split. And that can happen a lot of the times with the new maps and the changes to the map and things. Europe found it earlier, and they now have to catch up. Summer split, you'll probably see a bit of back and forth when we get towards the summer land too, because NA are now on even par. And then we get to the fall split, which is the world split as well, where it's back to, okay, so who's best at playing this meta, or who has found the weakness to the current meta.
Right, and that's kind of what you would use the summer split for, right, is to disassemble the spring meta and get ready for the fall. And speaking of getting ready for summer and fall, Dignitas, I mentioned it earlier on. Are you guys concerned at all about how they're going to perform at LAN moving forward?
A little bit, because I know that there have been some issues surrounding the team on a more pro player level kind of thing, which isn't really, for me to get too in depth on, because you never really do, or you're never really able to tell what happens behind in a team's environment, and so that can get a little complicated there. But I do feel as though at times Dignitas kind of second guess themselves if everything isn't going as is or as they expected it to be.
Right.
And I guess that when you see those kind of reoccurrences start to keep popping up, you can't help but think, maybe third time's the charm.
It's true. I mean, Graham, you don't seem as worried?
I'm not as worried. I think Dig will be fine. I think coming into, as long as they don't do anything terrible in the split, they'll come back for the summer LAN, and they'll still find the stride. If they're making finals, you can't really complain too much. Yeah, sure, you made mistakes in the finals.
Right.
You made finals. You went through the whole upper bracket. People are saying, Dig we really worried about Dig. No, they trounced everyone. They just got beat by a team that got beat earlier on because of a bracket reset. Yeah. Take away bracket reset, they won the tournament.
They won the tournament. So, even take away one moment from one game, they win the tournament.
There you go.
And that's the play that everyone's going to talk about as we go into the finals here between Rival and Dignitas. I mean, that game one where Dignitas is dominating, and then they all just try and dropship right in front of a Discordia. And Discordia is like the worst goddess to ever try in siege in dropship.
Two gods you have to worry about in that scenario. One is Discordia, 2 is Odin.
Yes.
Only 2 gods you have to worry about. 1 ring, 1 whatever it is, the purple carpet
Strife.
of death is what I end up calling it. Because that's literally what it is. It's a purple carpet of death.
And Wolfie doesn't get enough credit, I don't think, for that
for
play.
pressing the purple carpet of death?
Okay,
Wow.
that's a reaction time. I mean, everyone was waiting to go through. It's not like he
that
saw
hard.
the ult and immediately did it.
Portal appears, press 2.
But they were on the wall. I mean, that portal
Okay.
appears and they immediately come through it. It was a quick reaction, gets everyone in there. It just slaughters the entire team. Plus, he was on the side of it. So if he was standing normally, like with the Titan to his back, he would have only hit a couple because it would have been a little bit thinner. He actually covered the entire distance between Portal 1 and Portal 2. It makes an incredible play to win Rival the game.
Yeah, I know that we credit that a lot to DoTa's kind of messing up, but I think that was really just Wolfie stepping up as well, because if he doesn't get that timing right, I mean, it's hard to say what could happen. You miss out on like 2 or 3 players and that don't get caught up in that strife, and it's probably going to be a game end.
I know what happens. Dignitas wins.
Yes.
Dignitas wins that game and wins that entire set overall because of it. And I feel like Dignitas, I mean, we saw the life kind of drain out of them as the series went longer and longer and longer. Rival just seemed to be able to play that game a little bit better, the long game. The best of 7 seemed to favor Team Rival a little bit more.
They're very good at working out teams as time goes on and working out what went wrong in the strategy. And I've got to give some of the credit to that to Alpha Jackal then, because he's the coach in the back room going, this is where we went wrong. Picks and bans were good, but we did this wrong in the early game, and that meant our picks and bans bad. So we've got to fix that in the early game, and we'll be good again. And they seem to be good at working out teams a lot like that. It reminds me a little bit of the old world champions, the season 1 world champions at that, with how they perform cognitive, because they used to be able to work teams apart. They did it in the finals at Worlds as well.
Wait,
like, okay, ban
are you saying Maddie was a great coach, Hindu?
Of cognitive?
Oh, no.
Because he was their coach.
Yeah, that was.
You guys heard it here first. Matty Pocket, the best coach ever.
That's what Hindu Man just said, and I can't really save him for it. In fact, I've got to just kind of take it away from him.
If you agree with that, go play some Gasolina on his stream.
Right now. Listen, I'm not going to get involved with that. I'm staying on this side of the desk and not really worrying about it. We've got some top plays that we saw during these LANs, both of the other sides for console and for PC. There were some incredible individual efforts. I mean, I'm thinking of Wolves for Astral Authority had some really, really strong plays during the console LAN, trying to keep Astral Authority in it overall. Baronic as well had some great plays over there.
Okay, one thing I will say, though, is that the Hunter play at this previous console LAN was awesome to watch. Those guys were just nonstop brawling all the time. It wasn't even just Vaporish. Vaporish was running things a little bit at the LAN, I think, but there was also some highlight-worthy moments from Davey, I think, the other European Hunter for Team Fable. I think that also Covey even managed to get a solo kill during that time period against Vaporish, which I think is a pretty standout moment, too.
Didn't you taunt straight after that and die? Was that play?
No, that was later
on.
Yeah, that was later on. That has got to be the top overall fail for Season 5, in my mind. He steps up.
I don't know.
It taunts the body.
Is fighting with Dignitas and Rival at that last little last dropship.
I don't know. Making a bad decision and getting punished for it is one thing. Making a bad decision by, I didn't even kill this guy. Let me walk up to his body, spam taunt. I get killed. My teammate gets killed. Like,
but
that's
imagine the
level.
level of tilt if he doesn't die there. You know, like imagine what it'd be like to be the hunter that ends up getting ganked and killed, and then you see the enemy ADC slowly walk up to your body and start spam offing you. That's just looking for the head games there a little bit.
That is, and head games are definitely an important part of it, and that's one of the strengths of Astral Authority's roster, as well as on the PC side. I'm thinking of top plays that we might see in this next segment. A Deathwalker's Quadra kill obviously comes to mind against E United. Wolfie, obviously, with the Strife, that kind of stuff. There were a lot of really incredible standout performances from the Masters LAN as well.
Yeah, playing throughout the whole tournament as well. Like day by day, there was a play where you're like, okay, that could be considered as top play, but then it got better and better as the tournament on. No real surprises.
It's hard to not be impressed, especially whenever you start to see some of the pro players really come into light and like come into themselves during a lot of these standout moments in the LAN, because you have to keep in mind the pressure that is changed. And I know that this is a standard studio setup. They have their soundproof boxes and all that good stuff, but it is a little bit different, I think, as opposed to being at home, playing in the comfort of your own space and having to be brought onto like a foreign area kind of deal. So some of the times the pressure can build up. So I think it's just impressive in general how the pros don't ever really seem to let that get to them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, let's get right into it. We'll start off with Team Rival, I believe. We were talking about which top play would happen here from LAN. Well, Wolfie stood out to us. Triple kill is going to start us off here with these top plays. We were talking about Deathwalker's Quadra, that kind of stuff. We'll probably get into that in a little bit. But this is your number 3 play, of course. This is what I'm talking about, Graham. He's in if he's a little bit to his right, he doesn't catch both of those people with the stripe. That was really, really well positioned. That's Rival having the information, knowing that was a possibility.
And I'm not trying to discredit Wolfie when I talk about this, but at the same time, that jungle was warded. The whole way up through the jungle was warded. So he had vision the whole time of like, well, where's this all gonna go? I don't know. There's the portal. Press 2.
That really is.
Receive triple kill.
I mean, Dignitas, no. Like, every single time they have to see that clip, they die a little bit inside.
Straight after the LAN, I ended up going out for a couple of drinks with the Dig boys, and I did rub it in a little bit. I had a few drinks, and I was like, you boys, you idiots, how could you do something like that? Are you that stupid? Buy a ward at least if you're going to do that. What's the point? All 3 Phoenixes were down. I was really on my stuff.
You were being a savage.
I actually was. It's not often I admit I am a savage, but I was there.
He is the savage. And your second overall play here is for another savage in his own right. It's Vaporish Coast, the young 15-year-old, I believe, the hunter for Team Rival on the console side of things. He got a penta last LAN, so how do you follow that up? How about a quadra kill this time around?
And it's just one of those instances where you don't have a whole lot of time to think. You just have to react. And I love the aggression that Vaporish just immediately took up, just going straight to the wall. Like, you can't afford to miss a single shot pretty much.
It seems pretty easy on paper when you look at that because, like, they're all just focused on the Titan, and you're just like, all right, guess I'm just going to auto-attack and hope for the best. But he chose the right targets, which is a very important part of how to defend that.
Especially when you're about to lose a game.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That was a really big game that Rival really needed, and Vaporish tries to step up and make plays and does just that, a quadra kill for the young hunter from Team Rival. Impressive stuff. We're 2 for 2 on Rival plays thus far, so imagine we could even see another one. And what's that? Oh, what do you know? Another Rival play.
Well, you mentioned the quadra earlier, so it's got to be that, right?
It's another quadra kill, another Rival player. This time it's for Deathwalker. This one a little bit earlier in the game. Vaporish's was near the end, but this basically ended the game for Team Rival. This is up against the United.
This was actually a game that United were having the better end of up until this moment by Deathwalker and the gang. And I think that the way that Rival executed this and were able to capitalize off of what seemed like an impossible moment for Deathwalker, I just cannot believe that little tick of a raw heal is what made all the difference.
And the one thing is that United themselves were saying that play was, yep, we lost the game at that moment. Giving a quadra kill to a Kakulin in the solo lane, and it's Deathwalker, jobs are good. And you're going to have a good time at things there.
It's gonna be rough there in that instance. A couple just missed abilities overall, but not able to CC chain them correctly. You got to be able to find that kill early. If you don't, then Deathwalker will kind of do it to you over again. We've got a top fail for you here as well, but we saw it from the other end. Wolfie got the top play, but Dignitas, they get the top fail.
They had a few.
They had a fail, but this one...
Well, they had a few top fails, to be fair. I mean, we had Zeros trying to end it on his own, which didn't work out. We also had Cuvo Fred trying to blink in. But at the end of the day, if you're all going to drop shit with 3 Phoenixes down, this has got to be the top fail.
Cuvo still kicks himself, by the way, for that moment where he blinked into the Titan room. Because if you ask the Dignitas guys, though, they say the same thing every time. We were all just on a different page. It was just a miscommunication that kept breaking apart because some wanted to go for Fire Giant, some of them wanted to just push to end. And I remember Trixtank specifically saying that he wanted to go with Cuvo, but Cuvo just kind of jumped the gun on things, went in a little bit beforehand, and so that just resulted in an automatic 4v5. Then you're stuck waiting it out until he respawns, and it just rinse and repeat.
Well, there you have it for the the spring split. Those are the 2 lands, but let's get right into it. Summer split's coming up, and as Graham alluded to earlier, we've got a great one to start us off, a rematch of that last final, Dignitas and Rival. I mean, this has got to feel at least like a little bit of an opportunity for redemption here for Dignitas, right?
So nothing really changes, really, after like what happened. They're on a new patch, obviously, because they played the patch before, so we get to see the live patch that is out right now for you guys between these two. I don't think massive amounts really changed, though, when we go into this best of 3.
No, if anything, it's still being looked at as all the same as before, except for maybe some tweaks here and there in terms of what god choices we might see coming through. I know there have been. Exactly. I think that Aphrodite is certainly on the mark, but maybe not so much on the online meta, though. You never really know how things can swap around, especially with Guan Yu being a pretty hot pickup nowadays with his recent buff.
Yeah, Guan Yu and Gibalanke has got to come to mind as well. Do you think those two The permaban right away?
I think
I don't think that you can afford to ban Xbalanque in your first 2 picks, though.
I think if your first pick, you could ban it if you're not going to take it yourself.
Is Xbalanque first pickable overall?
It's hard to call. I think that right now he is pretty nuts, but considering that he's still a hunter, the Assassins and Mages are still a great way to keep him in check.
Who's his worst matchup? Cupid, really? Outside of that?
Well, no, Cupid, I wouldn't even
Cupid's
worry
always,
about Cupid.
Cupid's always been the Xbalanque character.
I think you're going to
everyone's
start
talked about,
seeing a little bit more of like Medusa maybe. I think Artemis is still going to be a very strong pickup against him. If anything, I think that Artemis could potentially be better in terms of the 1v1 boxing, but Xbalanque has that team fight potential with the Darkest Night, so it's really hard to call it between those two. In a strict 1v1 matchup, though, I'd probably have to favor the Artemis just because of the crit passive.
I will say, though, that like to back what she was just saying there about the Darkest Nights, that is one of the best team fight ultimates in the game.
Oh,
yeah.
I think you could make the argument that it is the best.
Well, especially in competitive professional play, because communication is so important. And when you can't see anything, you can't communicate what you're seeing. Because you're not seeing anything.
I think he could be a first pick because of the ultimate.
Could be. Well, we're talking about he'll be first pick for Rival versus Dignitas. And these are two teams that usually don't prioritize their hunters quite as much. I could see Guan Yu being a top pick because they really like to see their solo laners, their supports get those sort of priority picks. Graham thinks they'll be banned. So what are they going to go for necessarily? What do you think the Edge is going to go for? There's no way Dignitas goes for Aphrodite again, right? They picked it so many times against Rival, and Rival proved they could beat it.
I think they could go back to it, but I don't think they'll draft it early. They'll wait till later on, make sure there's no Odins or any too much anti-heal, or guys that just really shut it down early.
I'm pretty sure every single time that Dig even chose to go for the Aphrodite pick, it was usually in the 4th and 5th selection period because they didn't want to early reveal. At times they would also go for it in 3rd pick choice slots because that way they wanted to be able to see whether they could ban the Odin or not. And at times they were able to pick it, at times they were able to ban it. I think it really all depends, but she's certainly a pick that you want to hold for later on.
I mean, Aphrodite was played a lot in the solo lane, and kind of leaving Zeros to play those big burst mages that he played so well on during the Masters LAN. Zeros really did stand out the majority of the LAN. Obviously, we talked about the one instance where he tries to go in the game, blah, blah, blah. We'll get over that later. But Zeros played just lights out this LAN.
Yeah, this tournament was really on the back of Zeros, and for me, Kivo, Fred, and the jungle, they both had very good performances, and very important for your mid and jungle to have good performances to get to that stage. Discordia, always going to be relevant and always going to be pickable for the mid lane, dependent on what's banned away. I do think the biggest thing about the Xbalanque Guantot that we've been doing a lot of the time and the Afro is it just messes up picks and bans some more and could potentially see some other gods coming in and out based off those being around.
Discordia, though, really felt like one of those LAN meta type of picks because she was a god that went pretty under the radar all throughout the online spring split, and then everybody cuts the LAN, and suddenly Zero starts picking her, Wolfie starts picking her, and that kind of prompts other members from NA, I think, to even start leaning towards the Discordia, and a lot of that is probably just credited to the Strife. I think it's such a strong team fighting ability, and the Golden Apple can be pretty annoying too in terms of being able to create spacing because members want to avoid that cripple from the Apple.
All right, well, let's get right into it. Do you think Dignitas get their revenge against Rival?
I don't think that Dig are going to take it against Rival in the online portion here.
I'm going Dig.
I've got Dig as well because they've consistently beaten Rival online. Now at LAN, they've had a little bit of a different story, but I mean, this is still the triangle, right? Where Dignitas beats Rival, Rival beats Energy, Energy beats Dignitas. That stays true online as far as I'm concerned.
I still think Dig are going to do this here today. I mean, obviously take into account, if you look at what happened at the LAN, which we keep going back to, on paper in terms of just raw games played, Dignitas won more.
True.
So add that into the belt as well as how the split went. I'm still with Dig.
It was a tough call, and I do think that while there is a little bit of downtime in between the action, Rival are probably still going to have a very strong grip of the current meta, or at least being able to create their own that could potentially upset Dignitas for this love triangle that they all got going on. Yeah,
it's going to be awesome either way, whoever ends up winning that. Let's go on to our next matchup. That's going to be E-United versus Space Station, I believe, the two top cards in NA. So you've got 1-2 matchups basically here to watch as we kick off the summer split. No better way to do it. Space Station and E-United. Space Station looks like the slightly better team at Masters LAN by my estimation. I mean, they beat E-United, but it wasn't necessarily easily.
E-United for me this time. I think E-United are going to take this. I think they had a terrible start to the year, E-United, and I think they're slowly growing as the year goes on. I actually think Benji and the squad of E-United are going to be the strongest here against Space Station. Space Station, looked like lackluster for my liking at the LAN overall. I don't think they played to the same standard we saw them as time went on. I think teams are starting to work out how to play against this team. A lot of people talk about the backbone that is Baskin, but at the same time, if you break the back, then what's left? I mean, Barracuda did have a good LAN, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if it's going to be on the same level.
Bear had a good LAN, but Aquarius had a good LAN too. Aquarius had a great LAN.
But he's against Benji, and Benji just shuts down whoever you talk about.
But Aquarius beat Benji at LAN.
Exactly.
Fine.
And on top of all that, you have to keep in mind that United and Space Station have been scrim partners for a long time now. And so these guys are both fairly familiar with each other, or at least they should be by this time, or by this point. And I think that because of that, Space Station, if anything, would have an even stronger upper hand because of the fact that, like, if they're more accustomed to who they're going up against, I think that definitely helps them in terms of being able to draft around it. Because I think that drafting has always been a little bit of a struggle for Space Station in terms of going up against some of the European teams and some of the other NA teams even.
Sure.
And so when you are so familiar with your opposition, it's hard to not know what to draft.
Sure. All right, well, Graham's going for United right away. Taco, who you got in this one?
I got Space Station.
I've got Space Station as
by
well.
the way, just to be clear.
2-1, okay. I do think it'll be close. I do think it'll be close. I think Space Station looked like the marginally better team at LAN, and these two teams, their games are always so close, specifically online, that it really feels like a toss-up to me. I'm just going with the team that I thought looked a little bit better at the Masters LAN. Aquarius, if he has another dominant spring or summer split like he did in spring, I think that the sky is the limit for that Space Station team. Excited to see what he has to bring. All right, let's move on. Next up is going to be Energy versus Obey. Two teams that did not make the Masters LAN.
Nope.
Two teams that probably feel like they should have performed a little bit better than they did during the spring. Obey obviously had a really, really rough spring overall, but they started to look a lot better towards the end.
And that's kind of the similar story to United. The only difference is that, for my take, in Europe at the end of the split was even tighter towards the top, so it's harder to break into that for Obey.
Sure.
Whereas NA had the ability to have that happen. So Obey, very similar story to United, didn't make the LAN, but I think Energy overall performed so well throughout the whole split, and like one small mistake against, you know who? Obey, funny enough.
Yeah.
That's a real talking point there.
Yeah, if Energy hadn't lost that set to Obey, that's kind of what broke things up.
Yeah.
Because it, for the longest time, was just rival Energy dig, and then Obey suddenly decides, hey, guys, we want to participate too.
Yeah, we're still here. Yeah.
And I think that was just an awesome set between those two teams, by the way.
Was.
Really couldn't. I think that we were all pretty surprised by the outcome just because Obey, we were expecting them to struggle a little bit. Whenever you go through such a massive support change like that, in where they bring in a Raffer, that can be kind of difficult to adjust to immediately. And I know that we've seen it where teams haven't had any of those issues, and it's been a bit of a Cinderella story for them. But that's not usually the case here. Normally, you have to see some growing pains before you get the final product.
Right, and Captain Twig hasn't had the best spring, but at least in the beginning, but then really started to look more like himself towards the end. Kind of assumed a different role for this team, had really been the facilitator, the initiator for them a lot. Raffer fills that role very well, a little bit better than Emilzy did in my mind. Emilzy more of that team fighting sort of support that wants to be right behind near his carries. Raffer wants to be diving the enemy backline alongside his solo laner, alongside his jungler, and Twig seemed to really get more comfortable with that as the year went on.
For me, though, this set, Obey did win it last time. I don't see that being the case this time around.
I think the Energy might be like just gunning straight for the top. They're looking to skip over everybody and kind of just remind us all that they want to be number one again.
Also, take into account these two supports that they've had a lot of talk amongst themselves, Rafa and Emilzy, and this is one that Emilzy and the rest of Energy are not gonna take lying down after they lost. They didn't make LAN because of this set. They have to play it again, and this time round, they want to get off to a good start and put Obey back at the bottom where they started the year as well.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid prediction. I'm going with Energy as well. Taco?
Energy.
Wow, we all went in there. I thought one of us would go, no, man, Obey won last time, so
I don't know. Energy are just the team where, like, the more they get to see everybody else play, the more difficult they are to actually go against.
Yeah, it's true. Well, Energy is going to have a tough task despite that up against Obey. Excited to see that matchup. Our next match in Europe is going to be SK versus Mouse, the two bottom seeds during the spring split, but SK did make some changes coming into this summer split, picking up Half Devil, dropping Who to Best. So Half Devil played pretty well during his time in the minor league with Insignum, now getting his chance to come back up into the pro league. Do you think he'll be the difference maker for SK?
In this specific match, I do think so, but I think throughout the rest of the season, I think Half Devil's going to have to pick up the pace quite a bit, because a lot of teams are going to look to abuse him in the early stages. He had that for his career in the earlier times. He's very similar to Badger. Those two go back the same way, and we saw Badger come back, and that didn't work out so well either.
That was actually exactly where I was about to take things, though. Is it's kind of similar stories between Badger and Half Devil. Both of them kind of just took their breaks from SMITE for separate reasons, and Badger comes back, but he's not exactly at the professional level quite yet. We saw Half Devil come to the LAN that we just had because he qualified with his SMITE minor league team.
Yep.
And I mean, shout out to him for that one. But trying to bridge that gap immediately from minor league play even towards a professional level can be very rough to adjust to.
It can be, but Badger didn't have that ramp-up time, right? Like, he went right into the SPL and clearly struggled there during that time. Half Devil getting that ramp-up time, I think, will help him. And I do think SK will be a little bit better with Half Devil than they were with Badger or Who to Best. I don't know if this is going to be enough to jump them up to second seed, but this, I think, is a step in the right direction for SK. Mouse, on the other hand, sticks with their same roster. They just had they showed flashes of greatness. They showed flashes of not being able to compete with the top teams. Which team do you think we see here against SK?
The team that can't compete. I just think SK is going to get out of the blocks really well on their opening game. I'm going for SK here. Get out of the blocks opening game against Mouse very well, and then sit at the bottom for the rest of the season. Mouse, meanwhile, will probably grow throughout the split again.
I think the Mouse is definitely one of those teams where they take a little bit of time to heat up. We're mostly looking, I guess, towards Jermaine and Dartis to kind of be more standout members.
They never turn up for scrims from what I can tell, so it means
their
pro league games are their scrims. So the longer the season goes, the more scrims they have played means they will get better.
I mean, I'm looking at the other end of the coin here. It sounds like both of you guys are going for SK. I'm looking at the other side.
Did you go SK?
Yes. Okay, so yeah, both SK. I'm looking at how Mouse likes to go for weird sort of things and kind of catch teams off guard. SK seems to struggle with that sort of mentality. Lost against Mouse to start off the spring split as well. I've got Mouse here because I think Mouse is going to throw something really, really weird at them, and SK won't be able to respond.
I think I'm just hopeful.
Yeah.
Just hopeful to see SK do something.
We'll wait and see. Let's move over to NA. It's going to be CLG versus Trifecta as our next matchup. CLG got off to an amazing start during the spring split. Then it all kind of fell apart for them, but still a very, very strong core. Trifecta, the other end of the coin, they got off to a great start and kind of fell apart towards the end. And Trifecta does have some roster changes Max was hinting towards. Can't release those quite yet, but keep an eye open on Trifecta's Twitter later on today. I hear that announcement is coming. But CLG, I think, is the team to focus on here in my mind, that they have all the tools. They just got to be able to put it together to compete with the top.
And have they practiced enough over the break is the real story. Have they actually found what they were doing wrong during the split to get those tools to form a whole unit that start to crush opposition?
I think that this is going to be a very interesting matchup between CLG and Trifecta, because with those roster changes, whenever we do get a chance to finally go more further in depth on that, I think that this is going to be a great measuring period for Trifecta to kind of see what kind of opponents are really going up against and whether or not they're really going to be able to hang. Because CLG, do I consider them as the best team in NA right now? No, but I do think that they are a team that could certainly still compete in that top 3 area. And so if Trifecta is able to measure up with their newly formed roster, then I think that that will be a great starting point for the team to continue trying to build further development.
That's a great point. I think this could give Trifecta a lot of momentum. I think this could give CLG even some solid momentum starting off the year. I've got CLG. What about you guys?
I'm also CLG for the main reason is Trifecta, there's a talk of roster changes which should be announced today, which means a new team coming in, or at least changes to the roster. It's going to take some while to ramp up.
I think the same way around. CLG has it in my book here because they are a little bit more experienced at playing together, and I think anytime you bring in new players, it can kind of make things a little bit more hard to process.
Yeah, great point there. Okay, next up, LG versus Splice. Now, Splice ended the season the very bottom of North America, but they seem to be very competitive for their standing. They were constantly going to game 3s, just couldn't find a way to win any of those game 3s. Now, though, Splice is playing together, as in a team house right now, staying with Coach Kabam's family. They're over on that East Coast. That means Sino, Divios, Cyclone Spin, all of them on the East Coast ping, no longer on the West Coast ping. Is that the difference maker for Splice? I think that coming together as a unit is a huge boon for them.
Now, the 2 team houses that are going on now, Energy have one and Splice is the secondary one. I think this is going to do a lot of good things for Splice, but I keep talking about ramp, and I have a feeling that Splice Against LG, this is the one game where they could go 50-50, but I think LG take it. Splice, though, could grow if they keep working as a team.
I think that Splice are just going to be way too powerful now that they have their team house. I think that Splice takes this set by storm and shows everybody that they haven't just been living together to just, kind of screw around by any means, but they've really been grinding and like going hard to try and make sure that they can measure up in this next split, because that spring split, the spring split I think did not go in the way that a lot of people probably envisioned, because there's a lot of experience on this roster, there's a lot of talent on this roster, and I think that Splice is going to be super scary here in the summer split, especially now that they have that kind of team synergy of literally living together.
Yeah, I completely agree with Taco. I've got Splice here, and I think Splice is a team that you have to watch out for in North America right now. I mean, the thing, though, is that while Cyclone Spin and Divios are on the East Coast, because they have to deal with higher ping at times being on that West Coast, this gives them an opportunity, especially Cyclone in the ADC role. That is a big handicap to put on yourself. Now he gets to actually box on even footing with the other ADCs. I'm excited to see what he can do. I've got Splice in this one.
I've got LG for the simple reason I think Splice will be the fall team to watch, not the summer team. I think it's going to take them this summer to get used to being together and like find out all the loveliness of working as a team and being in the game house. And then fall, they have a run at Worlds. That's kind of where I'm at. They could make a run at Worlds if they can get through the split and keep working.
Taco? And I've got Splice.
Splice
Very
as well?
confident Splice.
All right, that's 2 for 1. Splice taking it over LG.
They don't win anything all spring, and you guys are like, Splice.
Hey,
they live together
now.
They
played really well, though.
It's a huge difference whenever you're actually able to live with someone and being able to, I don't know what it is, but it changes everything.
Yep.
It's just that air in...
Did you get better living with me?
Oh.
I rest my case. Move on.
I am moving on. Energy versus Dignitas.
I got hired
moving
by
on.
Hi-Rez, though. That's different.
That's true.
Moving on, Taco. Energy versus Dignitas. That's going to kick us off on Thursday for the SPL. I mean, it's been the triangle, right? Energy, they beat Dignitas. Dignitas beat Rival. Rival beat Energy. This one's clean and clear, right, everybody? Energy wins easy?
Nope.
I put Energy. I don't think it'll be easy by any means.
I'm seeing the split. I'm seeing it split apart now. The Trinity's about to be broken apart.
Really?
Obey's coming in too. And I think Dig win here.
Well, I mean, Dignitas got that practice at the spring LAN. Energy had to sit at home and watch, and sometimes that can motivate you, especially a guy like Adapting. He really seems to be the one who wants to get back in there, and this seems like the type of situation where he can really get motivated from missing a LAN.
And he will do. I mean, this is the first LAN that the Energy boys have missed for quite a while too. None of them will be happy about that. Obviously, only 2 spots up for grabs have made it difficult, but they would love to see themselves, and they expect to see themselves in the top 2.
It did feel weird, though, just even being here at the studios. It has been such a long time since we've seen Energy not be in attendance of a LAN, and so the fact that they weren't able to qualify because of dropping that set towards Obey, I just don't see a world where Energy just doesn't come out with a fire, like a bit of a vengeance even, against the entirety of EU.
Right, to try and prove it.
I still think, though, in this matchup, Dig's going to still come out and go, okay, Energy are going to be hyped up. We watched them play Obey. I'm still not worried about it. Let's just do our thing and put them down. I think Dig will do it.
Well, Dignitas is gonna try, and I think I've got Dignitas as well. I mean, look, Dig is just playing really, really well. I think it's time for that circle to be broken as well. Taco, you've got Energy?
I've got Energy here.
That's fine.
All right, that's going to be a fun one to watch for sure. That's on Thursday. Then after that, it's going to be Rival versus Mouse. Rival, what's something that eats mice? Like a falcon?
Like a cat?
Hawk? A cat? Any of those things. Rival feels like that.
Falcon is the first thing?
Yeah,
okay,
Falcon.
That's fair.
Yeah,
they
definitely eat mice, and they're also way cooler than cats, for the record.
Yeah.
And Rival feels cool right now coming off of that Masters LAN win. I feel like this is Rivals to lose, without a doubt.
I was about to say it's Tom versus Jerry, but then Jerry always lives, so that doesn't work out very well.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm definitely Rival, though, for the 2-0.
I've got to have Rival here just based off of...
Being Rival.
Being Rival, yeah.
Simple.
Being Rival. Mouse probably going to try and throw something weird at Team Rival. Rival does very well with weird. They like to get weird themselves at times with their picks and bans, so I think we've all got Rival there. Next up is Space Station versus CLG. This is a real measuring stick for CLG, and remember, CLG played Space Station very, very well during the spring split. Even though Space Station ended up on top in the overall standings, I think this could be a really close matchup.
CLG overall for me is going to be the sleeper team this split in North America. Like, they're the team that are going to vie for the top 2 alongside Space Station and United. They're my top 3 in that region.
Right.
And I really do feel feel that Space Station going to have a run for their money here, even though I do think they'll come out on top at the start.
You know how we saw this like love triangle between like Rival, Dignitas, and Energy? I think we're about to see the same thing happen in North America between a lot of these North American teams, and I think that CLG are going to be the team that kind of plays that obey role aspect, and that they might not necessarily be involved in the top 3 aspect, but they could certainly pose a threat to teams looking to qualify for future events and things like that. And in terms of trying to remain as a top 3 team, it can be difficult.
I think CLG is a legitimate threat themselves to go to LAN and be a top 2, top 3 contender in North America. In fact, I think they take this one over Space Station. I think CLG comes out hungry after not making LAN. I think they've got it over Space Station.
I think they'll come out hungry against Trifecta and then still be hungry, but I think Space Station Gaming's going to still be Space Station Gaming.
I think Space Station just has a slight edge in terms of just raw player talent.
I will say Barracuda as well steps up at LAN. If he can just find that form that he did at the LAN and just continue that into summer, more threats on the side of Space Station. Aquarius already, Baskin already. Well, let's have Barra join in too.
It's a great point. All right, last matchup of the week is E-United versus Luminosity. E-United still looking to return to form entirely consistently. I think that's the word I was looking for, where they look like their old selves again at times, but then have some lackluster performances. LG has given them trouble so far this year.
They have, and that's the one thing with how LG have been throughout the year. So far, they've just been the troublesome team that's caused issues for every team in North America. I still think E-United take it, though.
They could play spoiler effect, though, for sure, because E-United to drop a set against Luminosity would be huge here, because starting off your year on the wrong footing, I mean, you don't really want to put yourself in that position. E-United already has a pretty difficult matchup earlier on in the week against Space Station, so they can't really afford to take 1 L, much less 2, and so I think that this is where we really see E-United try to come into form in case they do drop that set against Space Station. I don't see them going down against Luminosity.
Yeah, I've got E-United as well. I think Luminosity will have a pretty good summer split, but it's going to be tough against E-United, who I think will be pretty hungry to look consistent once again. That's your first week of the summer split. It's going to be an awesome one. I mean, those were great matchups left and right. Thanks for joining us here on the desk. And as we get ready to go a little bit further on here at Esports Weekly, got to show you what we have as far as the new studio goes. The players finally got a chance to get their hands on it and play at a LAN here at Skillshot. And let's take a listen and say what they had to say.
New studio and the switch over to Skillshot, I feel like has brought a lot more of a competitive atmosphere. Before, when you would come to LAN, you would sort of like be there and hang out with the players, and there was kind of like this viewing experience where we would have like, you know, couches and seats set up and just kind of hang out.
The last one had a very homey vibe, and this one is straight professional. Like, we have sound dampening booths, everything's good to go. All of the audio equipment's been sick. We have everything right where we need it, and everything's just, it's been beautiful so far.
The new studio looks a lot more professional for like casters and even for the players as well. You have like new rooms to scrim, which are like better than was in the past.
The old one was less roomy and didn't have any scrim rooms or anything like that. So player privacy wasn't really there.
Obviously, as a competitive player, we really want to be able to practice. And now that we have, you know, 4 practice rooms and every team can be doing constantly to practice and kind of work to create a more competitive environment. And I think that's the most important part.
I mean, the new facility is looking very beautiful. And coming from Europe, it's a long travel, so you have 3 days without really playing. So it's really nice now that we have these rooms to practice in. The fact that you're now in like a covered room and you can't hear anybody around you just makes it a lot easier to concentrate overall. But everything is looking really beautiful.
We don't hear the casters casting from like the other room next door or anything like that. It's nice to soundproof all our comms, and we can hear each other very, very clearly.
Because when you're screaming, when you're practicing, you just need to focus, and that's what the room provides to you.
It is just, it's dead quiet and it's perfect for playing.
Thank you for all the support, and thank you to all the sponsors that keeps us going.
Thank you guys for watching us. Thank you for supporting us.
Shoutouts to E-United.
Otra vez, muchas gracias a todos ustedes y vamos Waiso Serial. Espero que a la próxima nos pueda apoyar otra vez. Gracias.
Shout outs to Hi-Rez and Skillshot for bringing us out to the LAN as always.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Esports Weekly rolls on here. Now I'm on the casual set, joined by F. and young man Finch. Finch, you're looking good today, I just got to say.
Thank you, Ryan. I feel good.
No problem. That's just wanted to get us going on a positive vibe here. Let's get into our community segment. Look, we asked you guys to show where you were watching the SMITE Masters LAN, the SMITE console LANs from. We got a couple responses here. Look at that setup. That is a classic right there. What is that? Is that a hammock? Is that comfortable?
Those first two are classic.
Those two, and then the final one where Ron Jobbert was watching it from on a nice little setup on the tablet there. It looked like.
Yeah, he's working at a museum now. So
yeah, very Ron.
A very Ron thing to do.
Yeah,
for sure. Look, let's get into the meta here. There was a lot about the meta at Masters LAN, whether the double hunter was good from North America, the pressure mid, I think, is kind of the better tagline for that than double hunter necessarily. Europe seemed to be a little bit more in favor of going slower in the mid lane, getting those big burst mages. Do you think it was Europe had the better meta, or do you think Europe just played better at Masters?
Column A, column B. I think that Europe played better, but I don't think that I don't think that Hunter mid is inherently the wrong strategy. I think that North America, if they want to continue that play style, just has to be better at it.
And I think you hit the nail on the head when you say pressure mid, because the idea with the Hunter mid, right, is to like be able to have the lane matchup, to be able to go start invading buffs, right? Well, when the EU comes in, they play a little bit slower, play a little bit more careful. You can't get those early invades. You can't get ahead early. And then with their a bit more late game comps, EU is able to win. So I think it's a little bit more of knowing what NA wanted to do and being able to just play around it better.
So do you think that NA is going to switch it up then, Finch? That NA is going to be going for the Thoths and the Discordias, the kind of later game mages that guys like Zeros were running?
I would say so. It depends, though. I think we're going to have a pretty big shift in the meta because we're going to have some sustain starting to come in, so that might kind of throw everything out. But I think we'll almost certainly see them shift away from what we saw at LAN. I just don't think it was working for North America.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's get into that. I mean, we were talking a lot on the desk. Is X-Ball first pickable? Is Guan Yu as good as advertised? What are your thoughts on that, Tom?
I think that Xbalanque is absolutely first pickable, especially in the North American region. You guys touched on it. The Europeans a little bit less focused on that Hunter position.
Sure.
When it comes down to it, though, Xbalanque passive, I think the Bounce team made the right choice in moving Xbalanque passive from kills earned to player damage.
Right.
But right now, 1,000 is a little low. You can stack that passive by like before 10 minutes. This guy is going to be highly contested. Guan Yu, just as much so, but I think in Europe, Guan's going to be more popular. In North America, we see more X.
Do you agree with that, Finch?
I think Guan Yu might be better than Xbalanque right now. I mean, his team fight is just so good. But I agree, it feels like it's very easy to stack that Xbalanque passive, especially if they're willing to fight you in the duo lane, which it seems like North America, they kind of are a little bit easier to have that trade out. So if they're having that Xbalanque able to get ahead early, then that's very strong. But I'm just on the lookout for Guan Yu being able to keep up the heel, sustain those team fights. And he's good anyway, I feel like, right? So now it's sort of like that nudge, like, hey, play Guan Yu again, and now I think we'll see more of him.
She was on the precipice. He was so close to being played, and watching a lot of the teams behind the scenes say, we want to play Xbalanque, we want to go for him, but he's just one step too short. Going back to Season 4, even the spring split. I mean, Taco was talking about maybe we'll see Xbalanque at Worlds, right?
Right.
One step behind. This, well, now he's a couple of steps ahead, and you said it before, the ultimate that Xbalanque brings is arguably the #1 team fight ult, baby.
It's impossible to work around. I mean, you just have to deal with it, right? You can't beads away to be able to see a little bit better, anything like that. You're just dealing with that darkness.
Have you tried using Raw 2 inside of it? Because that's like more light, right? And then it's dark inside the ult.
Can we shut off his mic?
I don't have that power, but I kind of wish I did. We talked about this a little bit on the desk as well. SK makes a roster change. They pick up Half Devil instead of Who the Best. Do you think Half Devil is ready for the SPL?
I'm glad you asked that question, because I think, is he an improvement over Who the Best? Is objectively yes. Who the Best just wasn't ready for the SPL. So I like this move despite the fact that I am a little bit, let's say, cautiously optimistic. Half Devil, for those that don't know, previously was a top-level player, but when he was a top-level player, the top level of play was a little bit lower than it is right now.
Sure.
In general, everybody's a little bit better. So Half Devil, I like the type of player he is, and I like the communication he brings. I think the biggest point for those that do remember him, specifically the players, is that he has matured. He's gone through a lot of life things since the last time he was around. So what he's known for, being a little bit rambunctious, being a little bit, frankly, just tough to deal with on the annoying side, side. I think that might have been gone away as he became an adult, and I'm just expecting good things. Is he ready for the SPL, like the question you just asked me? I'm unsure, but either way, I think this is the right move for SK, stepping away from who the best.
He did struggle a little bit at LAN, though, Finch, when the lights came on. I mean, all of Insignum did, but Half Devil in particular didn't have his best performance.
Yeah, for me, I think that this is not a win in the summer split type of move, right? This is like if they stick with it, then they'll be better fall. But I think that there's almost certainly going to be growing pains now. And I think that's good. I hope that that's how SK is looking at it, that they want to be better as a team long term. And I think that this is the move that does that. If Who the Best was like a 1 and all the other supports are a 5, then Half Devil right now is probably like a 2 or 3. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even though he's better than where they were, I don't think they're close yet, and they're going to need some time to work.
I also think it's worth noting that watching Insignum's playstyle, specifically around Paul, is one that is going to make you look worse than you are. It's very pub stompy. You're going to wind up with a higher number in the death column than perhaps against other teams. So I think, yes, he had a poor performance at LAN, but I think that poor performance was exacerbated by the play style of the North American SML champions.
Right.
Fair point. All right, let's we just got to wait and see, I suppose, for how well Half
Hurry
Devil
up and wait.
is going to do. Hurry up and wait is exactly right. Well, every week we get our meme master, Mr. Joe, back in production to make us a video, and this week it's no different.
I would like to summon some dead memes. Wow. That's definitely dead.
Thank you to Joe, as always, for the quality meme work there. SMITE Global Series has gone on a little bit of an overhaul, I should say. Much like the SMITE Console Series turning back into the SMITE Console League, SMITE Global Series is still going to be called the SGS, but more of a league format. Things to watch out for here are teams that can consistently improve, and I think that this will make these teams consistently improve. And I'm really excited to see how it's going to impact teams like Black Dragons and like Nocturnes, who showed up and played very, very well at the SMITE Masters LAN. That's going to be going on Monday through Friday, just like before, but keep an eye on those teams. Those guys are going to get a lot better in this league format where they get better practice, better teams to play against consistently, and we as fans get to watch some better games. I'm excited about that. For the minor league, I know this is kind of brief, but we're crushed for time here a little bit, guys. Sorry about that. The Very Nice to Me roster in North America is scary. They pick up Payne Divion in the support role. They pick up Maswal in the mid lane. This is the de facto best team right now. And I'm saying that after watching Anxiety Onset go undefeated during the entire minor league. They had an incredible run. They dominated at LAN, but losing Payne, that's a big deal. And Maswal's a beast in the mid lane, so I'm excited to see how he's going to go up against the other top mid laners in that minor league region. Thank you so much for watching here on Esports Weekly. We appreciate you watching here on Memorial Day. Have a great day off if you got your day off. And, of course, we'll watch you. Hopefully, you'll continue to watch us if you are on your day off as we go through the rest of the broadcast later on the day. As always, we'll leave you with our moment of Tolly. All right, Tolly, get out of here. Tolly, over to the other set, Tolly. Let's go. Move it. All right.